The stars above the desolate planet of Veyron shimmered like scattered diamonds against the black velvet sky. The air was thin, tinged with a faint metallic taste that clung to the back of Private Marcus Hale's throat as he trudged through the endless dunes of crimson sand. His boots crunched softly, each step deliberate and heavy, weighed down by both his armor and the exhaustion that had been gnawing at him for days. Marcus wasn't supposed to be here. He joined the United Terran Forces out of sheer desperation, a way to escape the poverty-stricken streets of New Chicago on Earth. But this mission had turned into something far beyond anything he'd signed up for. What started as a routine reconnaissance sweep had spiraled into chaos when their ship crash-landed in one of the most hostile environments known to humankind. Out of the 20 soldiers aboard, only 3 remained alive, including himself, and they were barely holding on. As Marcus crested yet another dune, his eyes caught sight of something unusual. A small figure huddled near the base of a jagged rock formation. At first glance, it looked like some sort of animal curled up in defense, but as he squinted harder, his heart skipped a beat. It was a child, a little girl no older than 5 or 6, dressed in tattered robes that fluttered slightly in the weak breeze. Her hair shimmered silver under the dim light of Veyron IV's twin moons, cascading over her shoulders like liquid starlight. But what struck Marcus most were her eyes, large, luminous orbs that seemed to glow faintly purple even from this distance. For a moment, Marcus froze. Logically, he knew there shouldn't be any children out here. This planet was barren, lifeless except for its bizarre flora and fauna. Yet here she was, sitting alone amidst the wasteland, staring straight at him with an expression so calm it bordered on eerie. She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't move to run away. She simply waited, as if she'd been expecting him all along. "Hey!" Marcus called out cautiously, raising a hand in greeting while keeping his rifle slung across his chest. "Are you okay?" The girl tilted her head slightly, studying him with unnerving intensity. Then, without warning, she smiled. A radiant, otherworldly grin that made Marcus feel simultaneously warm and uneasy. "You're late," she said in perfect English, her voice melodic yet carrying a strange undertone that sent shivers down his spine. "Late?" Marcus repeated dumbly, lowering his weapon completely now. "What do you mean late? Who are you waiting for?" Her smile widened, revealing teeth that sparkled like polished quartz. "My mother will be pleased." Before Marcus could ask anything else, the ground beneath them began to tremble. Sand shifted violently around them, forming swirling patterns in the air before coalescing into towering shapes. From the vortex emerged beings unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Tall, elegant creatures with skin that shimmered like opals and wings that unfurled gracefully behind them, casting prismatic shadows across the desert floor. Their leader stepped forward, her presence commanding silence despite her delicate frame. Her eyes locked onto Marcus, piercing through him with an intelligence and authority that left him feeling utterly exposed. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, everything went still. The alien queen extended a hand toward the girl, who took it without hesitation. Turning back to Marcus, she spoke a single word, her voice echoing like thunder wrapped in silk. "Follow." Without thinking twice, Marcus obeyed. Whatever was happening, whatever test fate or these aliens had set before him, he couldn't turn away now. Not when those hauntingly beautiful eyes seemed to promise answers, and perhaps salvation. The journey back to wherever the Queen intended to take them felt surreal, as though Marcus had stepped into a dream where time bent and twisted unnaturally. The towering aliens moved with an effortless grace, their steps gliding over the sand as if defying gravity itself. Marcus struggled to keep pace, his breath coming in ragged gasps despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Every so often, he glanced at the little girl walking beside the Queen, her tiny hand clasped firmly in the alien's long, slender fingers. Her demeanor remained eerily serene, as though none of this, the crash, the desolation, the sudden appearance of these ethereal beings, was remotely surprising to her. When they finally reached their destination, Marcus stopped short, his jaw dropping involuntarily. Nestled within a natural crater was a shimmering city suspended mid-air, its structures composed entirely of translucent crystal-like material that refracted the light into dazzling rainbows. Bridges arched between floating platforms, and streams of glowing energy pulsed through intricate pathways, illuminating every corner with soft, pulsating hues. The sight was breathtaking, but it also filled Marcus with a creeping sense of unease. This place didn't belong to humanity. It belonged to something far greater, far more advanced than anything he'd ever encountered. The group ascended toward the city via some invisible force field that lifted them effortlessly off the ground. As they entered, Marcus noticed the stares from the inhabitants. Not hostile, but curious, almost clinical. They were all variations of the same striking beauty. Elongated limbs, iridescent skin, and those impossibly large eyes that seemed capable of peering straight into your soul. Children darted past, giggling softly, while adults conversed in melodic tones that sounded less like language and more like music. Despite the strangeness, there was an undeniable warmth to the atmosphere, a subtle hum of life that made Marcus feel oddly welcomed and profoundly out of place. Their procession led them to what appeared to be a grand hall, dominated by a massive throne carved from what looked like solidified starlight. The queen released the girl's hand and gestured for her to sit cross-legged on a plush cushion nearby. Then, turning to Marcus, she regarded him silently for a long moment before speaking. "Human soldier," she began, her voice resonating with authority but laced with something softer. "Curiosity, perhaps? Do you know why my daughter sought you out?" Marcus blinked, taken aback. Not really. I thought maybe she was lost or stranded. I didn't even know she existed until today." The queen's lips curved into a faint smile, though it held no trace of humor. "She is never truly lost. My daughter has wandered many worlds, testing those she encounters. You are merely the latest." "Testing?" Marcus echoed, confusion furrowing his brow. "Testing for what?" Instead of answering directly, the queen gestured toward the girl, who now sat calmly observing him with those luminous violet eyes. "Tell me, human, how did you react upon seeing her? Did you fear her, ignore her, or did you act as you did because you believed it was right?" Marcus hesitated, replaying the moment in his mind. "Honestly, I didn't think about it much. She looked scared, I guess, alone. I couldn't just leave her there." The queen nodded slowly, her gaze sharpening. Few would have acted so selflessly under such circumstances. Most would see only danger, only the unknown. Yet you chose compassion. A murmur rippled through the gathered crowd, low and approving, though Marcus couldn't tell whether it was directed at him or the queen. He shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to respond. "Look, ma'am, your majesty, I don't know what kind of test this is, but I'm just trying to survive. If helping your daughter means I get a chance to go home, then great. But if this is some cosmic game, I'd appreciate knowing the rules." The queen chuckled, a sound like wind chimes tinkling in a gentle breeze. "Rules? Oh dear human, there are no rules, only choices. And yours thus far have intrigued me greatly." She paused, leaning forward slightly. "But understand this, my daughter does not choose lightly. Those she tests must prove themselves worthy, not merely of survival but of trust, of loyalty, of companionship." At that last word, Marcus felt a chill crawl up his spine. Companionship? With whom? Before he could press further, the queen rose gracefully from her throne and beckoned him closer. "Come, there is much for you to learn and little time to waste. For what lies ahead may determine not only your fate but ours as well." As Marcus followed her deeper into the crystalline corridors of the alien city, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being drawn into something far larger and far stranger than he could possibly comprehend. Over the next several days, Marcus found himself immersed in a whirlwind of activity that tested every fiber of his being. The queen, whose name he eventually learned was Lysara, wasted no time putting him through a series of trials designed to evaluate his character, strength, and adaptability. Each challenge was unique, ranging from physical feats to moral dilemmas, and Marcus quickly realized there was no clear pattern to them. One day, he might be tasked with scaling a precarious cliffside to retrieve a rare flower. The next, he'd find himself mediating a dispute between two alien artisans over a shared creation. Through it all, Lysara observed quietly, her piercing gaze following his every move. At first, Marcus approached these tasks with a mix of determination and bewilderment. He wasn't accustomed to solving problems without weapons or brute force, and some of the scenarios felt absurdly trivial compared to the life-or-death situations he'd faced during his time in the military. Still, he pushed forward, driven by a growing curiosity about why Lysara seemed so invested in his performance. Was she genuinely interested in understanding humanity, or was there something else at play? The young girl, whom Lysara referred to as Nixela, proved to be both a source of comfort and frustration. Whenever Marcus faltered or grew overwhelmed, she would appear seemingly out of nowhere, offering cryptic advice or simply smiling in that disarming way of hers. Once, After failing to solve a particularly intricate puzzle involving shifting energy beams, Marcus snapped irritably, "Do you always just stand there watching? Or are you going to help me figure this out?" Nixela tilted her head, her silvery hair catching the light. "Helping isn't always about doing," she replied mysteriously. "Sometimes it's about believing you can." Despite her enigmatic nature, Marcus couldn't deny that spending time with Nixela brought moments of levity to the otherwise grueling process. During breaks between challenges, she would lead him to hidden corners of the city where vibrant gardens flourished despite the harsh environment outside. There, she taught him snippets of her people's language, laughing whenever he mispronounced a word. These moments allowed Marcus to lower his guard, if only briefly, and glimpse the playful side of the alien princess. Yet, as the days wore on, Marcus began to notice subtle changes in Lasara's demeanor. Initially distant and regal, she gradually became more engaged, asking probing questions about his past, his motivations, and his dreams. In turn, Marcus found himself opening up in ways he hadn't expected. He spoke candidly about his struggles growing up poor, his decision to join the military as an escape route, and his lingering guilt over surviving battles that claimed so many others. To his surprise, Lasara listened intently, her expression softening at times as though she understood the weight of his words. One evening, as they walked together along a bridge suspended high above the city, Lasara finally broke her usual reserve. "You carry burdens heavier than most, Marcus Hale," she said softly. "And yet you continue to rise. Why?" Caught off guard by the question, Marcus hesitated before responding. "I guess I don't really have a choice. Giving up means letting everyone down, including myself." Lasara studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Resilience born of necessity is admirable, but resilience born of hope is extraordinary. Tell me, human, what do you hope for?" It was a simple question, yet it struck Marcus deeply. Hope had become such a fragile concept for him, buried beneath layers of hardship and disillusionment. But standing there, surrounded by the shimmering beauty of the alien city and gazing into Lasara's luminous eyes, he felt a flicker of something long forgotten stir within him. "Maybe a chance to start over," he admitted quietly. "To find somewhere I belong. Someone who sees me for who I am, not what I've done." For the first time, Lasara smiled. A genuine, unguarded smile that transformed her entire presence. "Then perhaps you are closer to finding that than you realize." Though Marcus didn't fully grasp her meaning, the comment lingered in his mind long after their conversation ended. Little did he know the true purpose behind these trials, and the role he was destined to play was only beginning to unfold. Amidst the labyrinthine corridors and crystalline chambers of the alien city, Marcus found himself grappling with emotions he hadn't anticipated. The longer he spent in Lasara's presence, the more he felt an inexplicable pull toward her. A mixture of admiration, respect, and something deeper he couldn't quite name. She embodied everything he'd ever imagined leadership should be: wise, compassionate, and unyielding in her convictions. Yet beneath her regal exterior lay a vulnerability that surfaced in fleeting moments, like when she spoke of her responsibilities as queen or the sacrifices she'd made for her people. It was during those rare glimpses that Marcus saw her not as an untouchable monarch, but as a woman burdened by immense expectations. His feelings weren't entirely one-sided. Over time, Lasara began to treat him differently, her interactions becoming less formal and more personal. She sought his opinions on matters both trivial and significant, from the design of new architectural projects to the resolution of diplomatic disputes among her subjects. At first, Marcus assumed it was part of her evaluation process, another layer of testing to gauge his judgment. But as their conversations grew longer and more intimate, he started to wonder if there was something more at play. Was she genuinely interested in his perspective? Or was she searching for qualities that transcended mere competence? The tension between them reached its peak one evening when Lasara invited him to dine privately in her quarters. The room was bathed in soft, golden light, emanating from bioluminescent plants arranged artfully around the space. A table laden with exotic foods awaited them, each dish more fragrant and colorful than the last. As they ate, the conversation flowed easily, touching on topics ranging from the intricacies of interstellar politics to the simple joys of storytelling. For the first time, Marcus felt a semblance of normalcy, as though they were two equals sharing a meal rather than a human soldier dining with an alien queen. "You intrigue me, Marcus," Lasara confessed midway through the meal, her voice carrying a note of vulnerability. "Your world is so different from mine, Yet you possess qualities I admire deeply. Honesty, courage, compassion. Few of my own kind exhibit such traits so freely. Marcus swallowed hard, caught off guard by her candor. I'm just trying to do what's right, he replied, his tone tinged with humility. Even if I don't always know what that is. Lysara leaned forward, her luminous eyes locking onto his. Perhaps that is why you intrigue me most of all. You are willing to admit uncertainty, to embrace growth even when it frightens you. Such honesty is rare, Marcus. Precious. Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implication. Marcus felt a flush creep up his neck, unsure how to respond. Before he could muster a reply, Nyxela burst into the room, her laughter ringing like bells. She plopped herself onto the floor beside them, chattering excitedly about a new discovery she'd made in the city's archives. The moment passed, leaving Marcus acutely aware of the undercurrents swirling between him and Lysara, and the realization that his feelings for her were becoming impossible to ignore. As the days stretched into weeks, Marcus found himself increasingly torn. On one hand, he couldn't deny the connection blossoming between them, however unconventional it might be. On the other, doubts gnawed at him relentlessly. Was he being manipulated, used as part of some elaborate scheme? Or worse, was he reading too much into Lysara's actions, mistaking gratitude for affection? The uncertainty weighed heavily on him, compounded by the knowledge that he was an outsider in every possible sense. No matter how much he admired Lysara or cared for Nyxela, he couldn't shake the nagging fear that he didn't truly belong here. One afternoon, while wandering the outskirts of the city, Marcus stumbled upon a secluded garden tucked away behind a shimmering waterfall. It was a tranquil oasis, filled with plants that pulsed gently with inner light and emitted soothing melodies as the wind brushed against their leaves. Sitting on a smooth stone bench, he allowed himself to reflect on everything that had transpired since arriving on Veyron 4. The trials, the conversations, the moments of quiet camaraderie, they all pointed to something greater than he'd initially understood. Yet the question remained. What exactly was Lysara searching for in him, and what role was he meant to play in her world? Lost in thought, Marcus didn't notice Nyxela approach until she plopped down beside him, her silver hair gleaming in the dappled light. You look troubled, she observed, tilting her head curiously. Are you worried about my mother? Marcus sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. Something like that. I don't know what she wants from me. Nyx, am I supposed to be proving myself? Earning my freedom? Or is there something else going on that I'm missing? Nyxela giggled, her laughter light and musical. Oh, Marcus, you humans are so focused on questions. Sometimes the answers are simpler than you think. What does that mean? He asked, exasperated but unable to suppress a smile at her antics. She leaned closer, her violet eyes sparkling mischievously. It means you should stop thinking so much and start feeling instead. Trust your instincts, they're stronger than you realize. Her words lingered in Marcus's mind long after she skipped away, leaving him alone with his thoughts once more. Perhaps Nyxela was right. Perhaps the key to understanding Lysara and his place in this strange, beautiful world lay not in logic or strategy, but in embracing the emotions he tried so hard to suppress. As he sat there, surrounded by the gentle hum of the garden, Marcus resolved to let go of his doubts, at least for now, and allow himself to simply exist in the moment. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it with an open heart, trusting that the path would reveal itself in due time. The tranquility of the garden was shattered abruptly when alarms blared throughout the city, their shrill tones reverberating like thunderclaps. Marcus sprang to his feet, instinctively reaching for the weapon strapped to his side. Before he could orient himself, Nyxela reappeared, her usual calm demeanor replaced by urgency. We have to go, she urged, grabbing his hand. There's no time. Together, they sprinted back toward the heart of the city, where chaos had erupted. Streams of energy crackled erratically in the skies above, disrupting the normally harmonious flow of the floating platforms. Citizens scrambled for cover, their melodic voices rising in panic as shadowy figures descended from the heavens. These newcomers were unlike the graceful beings Marcus had grown accustomed to. They were hulking, armored warriors with jagged wings and glowing red eyes that radiated malice. Their leader, a towering figure clad in obsidian armor, bellowed commands in a guttural language that sent shivers down Marcus's spine. Who are they? Marcus shouted over the din, struggling to keep pace with Nyxela as they navigated the crumbling bridges. They're Krylos, Nyxela replied grimly. Mercenaries hired to destabilize our kingdom. Mother feared this day would come. As they reached the grand hall, Marcus spotted Lysara standing defiantly atop her starlight throne, her regal composure undeterred despite the unfolding destruction. Around her, a contingent of her loyal guards formed a protective barrier, their opalescent wings shimmering as they prepared to defend their queen. The Krylos leader landed heavily before them, his massive sword crackling with dark energy. "Surrender your throne, Lysara," he snarled, his voice dripping with disdain, "or watch your precious city burn." Lysara's response was calm but resolute. "You underestimate us, Vorith. We will not yield." With a roar, Vorith lunged forward, his blade slicing through the air with lethal precision. Lysara raised her hand, and a barrier of prismatic light erupted around her, deflecting the attack. The clash ignited a full-scale battle, with Krylos warriors descending upon the defenders in waves. Marcus, realizing he couldn't stand idly by, charged into the fray, his training kicking in as he fought alongside Lysara's forces. Though outnumbered and outmatched by the sheer ferocity of the Krylos, Marcus relied on quick reflexes and improvisation, using the terrain to his advantage. He hurled chunks of shattered crystal at enemies, knocked them off balance with well-timed kicks, and even commandeered one of their discarded energy rifles to unleash bursts of counterattacks. Nyxela, meanwhile, darted through the chaos with uncanny agility, her small frame allowing her to slip past the Krylos unnoticed. She worked methodically, disabling their weapons and sabotaging their equipment with tools Marcus hadn't realized she carried. At one point, she tossed him a glowing orb, shouting, "Use this! It'll disrupt their shields." Marcus caught it mid-stride and hurled it at a cluster of advancing Krylos. The orb exploded in a burst of searing light, sending them stumbling backward as their protective barriers flickered and failed. Seizing the opportunity, Marcus closed the distance and delivered a series of precise strikes, taking them down before they could recover. Despite their efforts, the tide of battle seemed relentless. Vorith himself proved nearly invincible, shrugging off attacks that would have felled lesser opponents. When he finally broke through the defensive line and confronted Lysara directly, Marcus felt his blood run cold. The queen stood firm, her expression unwavering, but Marcus could see the strain in her movements as she parried Vorith's brutal swings with her own blade of crystalline energy. "No!" Marcus shouted, sprinting toward them. Without hesitation, he tackled Vorith from behind, driving the hulking warrior to the ground. The impact stunned Vorith momentarily, giving Lysara the opening she needed. With a swift, decisive strike, she plunged her blade into a vulnerable seam in his armor, eliciting a guttural roar of pain. The remaining Krylos faltered at the sight of their leader falling, retreating in disarray as reinforcements from the city arrived to drive them off entirely. As the dust settled, Marcus collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily as adrenaline coursed through his veins. Lysara approached him, her face etched with gratitude and something deeper, admiration. "You saved me," she said softly, extending a hand to help him up. Again, Marcus managed a weary smile, shaking his head. "Just returning the favor." While the immediate threat had been neutralized, the aftermath of the battle revealed a sobering reality. The invasion had inflicted significant damage to the city's infrastructure, severing vital energy conduits and destabilizing several floating platforms. Engineers and artisans worked tirelessly to repair the breaches, their efforts coordinated by Nyxela, who displayed an unexpected level of expertise in managing crises. Marcus, meanwhile, found himself thrust into a leadership role he hadn't anticipated, overseeing teams of workers and mediating disputes among the citizens affected by the destruction. The emotional toll of the conflict weighed heavily on everyone, especially Lysara. Though outwardly composed, Marcus noticed subtle signs of weariness in her posture and the occasional flicker of doubt in her eyes. One evening, as they surveyed the ongoing restoration efforts from a balcony overlooking the city, Marcus broached the subject gently. "You've been carrying this burden for a long time, haven't you?" he asked, his tone soft but probing. Lysara sighed, leaning against the railing as she gazed out at the glittering expanse below. "Longer than you can imagine. Being queen is not merely a title. It is a responsibility that demands constant vigilance, sacrifice, and resolve. Today's victory came at great cost, and I fear it is only the beginning." Marcus hesitated, unsure how to respond. Finally, he settled on honesty. "You don't have to face it alone, you know. You've got Nyxela, your people, and me." Her lips curved into a faint smile, though it carried a trace of melancholy. Your loyalty touches me deeply, Marcus, but alliances forged in battle often crumble under pressure. Are you certain you wish to remain here, knowing the dangers that lie ahead? Before Marcus could answer, Nixela joined them, her youthful enthusiasm providing a welcome contrast to the somber mood. He'll stay, she declared confidently, her violet eyes twinkling, because he belongs here with us. The statement hung in the air, its implications resonating deeply. Marcus felt a surge of clarity, as though the pieces of a puzzle were finally falling into place. Whatever challenges awaited them, he realized he couldn't walk away. Not now, not after everything they'd shared. Turning back to Lysara, he met her gaze squarely. I'm staying, he said firmly. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because I believe in what we're fighting for, and in you. For a moment, Lysara simply stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she reached out and took his hand, her touch warm and electric. Very well, she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. Together, then, let us rebuild what was broken, and prepare for what is yet to come. The years that followed were a tapestry woven with moments of joy, growth, and quiet reflection. After the battle against the Krylos and the subsequent rebuilding of the city, Marcus's place in Lysara's world became undeniable, not just to him but to everyone around them. The connection they had forged through trials and shared struggles blossomed into something deeper, more profound. It wasn't long before whispers of admiration turned into declarations of love, spoken softly under the shimmering light of Veyron Ivy's twin moons. Their wedding was a celebration unlike anything Marcus could have imagined. The entire city transformed into a kaleidoscope of colors, with crystalline spires glowing brighter than ever before. Streams of energy danced across the sky like ribbons, forming intricate patterns that told stories of unity and hope. Citizens from all corners of the kingdom gathered to witness the union between their beloved queen and the human soldier who had proven himself worthy not only as a protector but as a partner. Nixela stood proudly beside them, her silver hair adorned with flowers that sparkled like stars, beaming at the sight of her mother and Marcus exchanging vows. Lysara wore a gown made of liquid light, its fabric shifting hues with every movement, while Marcus donned ceremonial robes gifted by the artisans of the city, symbols of his acceptance into their culture. As they sealed their bond with a kiss, the crowd erupted in cheers, their melodic voices blending harmoniously with the hum of the planet itself. For Marcus, it was a moment of pure serenity, a culmination of everything he'd endured and fought for. He no longer felt like an outsider. He belonged here with this family, in this extraordinary world. In time, their family grew. Lysara gave birth to twins, a boy named Eric and a girl named Lyra, and watching her cradle their newborns filled Marcus with a sense of wonder he hadn't known he was capable of feeling. Parenthood brought new challenges, of course. Raising children on Veyron meant navigating a blend of human and alien customs, teaching Eric and Lyra to appreciate both their heritage and the responsibilities that came with being heirs to the throne. But it also brought boundless laughter and warmth, filling their home with the kind of chaos only kids could create. Eric inherited his father's curiosity and determination, often dismantling gadgets or sneaking off to explore hidden parts of the city. Lyra, on the other hand, possessed her mother's grace and wisdom, able to calm even the most rambunctious groups of children with a single word. Together, the siblings formed an inseparable duo, their adventures becoming legendary among the palace staff. Whether it was chasing after rogue energy sprites or attempting to improve the city's floating platforms, much to the engineers' dismay, Eric and Lyra kept life anything but dull. Through it all, Marcus marveled at how far he'd come since those days trudging through the crimson sands of Veyron Ivy's wastelands. His journey, from a desperate soldier seeking survival to a husband, father, and trusted leader within an alien society, was one he still struggled to fully comprehend. Yet, when he looked at Lysara, her luminous eyes reflecting the same love and devotion she'd shown him from the start, he knew he wouldn't trade this life for anything. Peace settled over the kingdom in ways that felt almost surreal after so many years of conflict. Under Lysara's guidance, and with Marcus's unwavering support, the people flourished. Innovations in technology improved daily life, while cultural exchanges strengthened bonds between communities. Even neighboring planets began reaching out, eager to establish alliances with the once isolated kingdom. Through diplomacy and mutual respect, Lysara and Marcus worked together to ensure that peace endured, setting an example for future generations. Nixela, now older and wiser, took on a role as ambassador, traveling to distant worlds to share her people's knowledge and forge connections. Her playful spirit remained intact, though, and she never failed to return home with tales of her exploits and gifts for her younger siblings. Watching her thrive filled Marcus with pride, knowing she had grown into a remarkable woman who embodied the best qualities of her mother and their shared humanity. Evenings in the royal household were sacred. After busy days filled with meetings, lessons, and adventures, the family would gather in the garden where Marcus had first begun to understand the depth of his feelings for Lysara. They'd sit beneath the bioluminescent plants, sharing stories, laughter, and dreams for the future. Sometimes, Lysara would sing ancient songs from her people's history, her voice weaving magic into the air. Other times, Marcus would recount tales of Earth, painting vivid pictures of bustling cities and vast oceans for his wide-eyed children. It wasn't always perfect. There were disagreements, moments of doubt, and occasional reminders of the differences between their two worlds. But these challenges only deepened their commitment to each other and their family. Together, they learned to navigate the complexities of blending cultures, finding strength in their diversity rather than division. As the years passed, Marcus found himself reflecting on the path that had led him here. He thought about the crash landing, the mysterious child waiting for him in the desert, and the trials that had tested his character. Each step had been unpredictable, fraught with danger and uncertainty, yet it had ultimately brought him to this place of peace and fulfillment. And though he sometimes wondered if fate or chance had guided him, one thing was certain. He had chosen to stay, to embrace this life wholeheartedly. One night, as he lay beside Lysara, listening to the gentle hum of the city outside their window, Marcus voiced a question that had lingered in his mind for years. Do you think Nyxela planned all of this? Finding me, bringing me here, everything. Lysara chuckled softly, her hand finding his in the darkness. Perhaps, she said, her tone teasing yet tender. Or perhaps it was simply your own choices, your willingness to follow your heart, that brought us together. Marcus smiled, squeezing her hand gently. Either way, I'm glad I didn't run away. With those words, they drifted off to sleep, surrounded by the love of their family and the promise of a bright future. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they faced them not as individuals, but as a united force, a testament to the power of trust, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds forged through shared experiences. In the end, it wasn't just a story of survival or destiny. It was a story of finding home, in each other, in their children, and in the extraordinary world they called their own.